Arsenal have made it 8 wins in a row, smashing 2 goals past Brighton to not only secure a place in the Carabao Cup quarter-finals, but complete the perfect October. So from Arsenal's new defensive warriors at the back to the Hale End excellence, the change in Nwaneri, and Arsenal's newest record being broken. As per, let's break it all down and discuss the 5 things we learned from Arsenal 2, Brighton 0. Yo, what is going on, guys? My name is Bass14. Welcome back to your boys channel. And 8 wins in a row, Carabao Cup quarterfinals, here we come. We've got so much to break down. So as per, smash a like on this video if you do enjoy, and subscribe to the channel if you are new, helping your boy as we are getting closer and closer to 250,000 subscribers. But starting off with the first thing, and that is Arteta's big change, as Arsenal rounded up a perfect October. 6 wins out of 6, 6 clean sheets, not a single goal conceded. It has been quite a good month to be an Arsenal fan. Top of the Premier League, thriving in the Champions League, and now in the Carabao Cup doing the business as well. But on a day where Mikel Arteta made 10 different changes, in came Kepa, Ben White, Mascara, Hincapie, Lewis Skelly, Merino, Nwaneri, and Hale End, with the only player starting from Crystal Palace being Eberici Eze. 10 changes that could have easily been 11 if, let's just say, Gabriel Martinelli was available. We've talked about the idea of Mikel Arteta having the strongest squad in the Premier League, but to now see it in action and Mikel Arteta not scared to rotate, it was quite a refreshing sight. But in a game that was far from simple, Fabian Hertz's Brighton were definitely causing problems. With 50% of the possession, 1.6 XG to Arsenal's 1.22, Brighton missed 3 massive chances in a first half where they could have easily taken the lead, but at the same time it shouldn't have been that much of a surprise. These Brighton players had more cohesion, they played together more often. When you throw in 10 different Arsenal players, multiple making their first ever start at the Emirates Stadium, it was always going to take a little bit of time of adaptation. But to still have the quality of Lewis Skelly starting, a player that dropped a 7.4 SOFA score rating, with 1 assist, 1 tackle won, 2 clearances and full recovery, 6 of 9 ground balls won. You also had yet another start for Benjamin White, dropping a 7.2 SOFA score rating, with 3 recoveries, 3 ground balls won, as well as 84% of passes completed, 2 out of 2 dribbles. And it was a little bit of a throwback, watching Ben White maroon down the right hand side, forming a fantastic partnership alongside Max Down, alongside the ability to ping long balls towards that left hand side. Ben White is a fullback when it comes to Arsenal going forwards. As great as Yuri Timber has been, White offers a different type of profile, one that we know is more than able to provide an overlap consistently. When you go back to 2023-24, there was a reason why alongside Bukayo Saka and Martin Odegaard, Ben White was a part of one of the most dangerous right-hand sides in the entire Premier League. And it's quite crazy when you start to think about it. Lewis Skelly and Ben White being backup fullbacks, players that would have been guaranteed starters in previous year, but now having to fight and earn a place in that starting 11. Yet a further example of Arsenal having the strongest squad in the Premier League. But in a game that you also saw an Emirates debut for brand new goalkeeper Kepa Arrizabalaga, dropping a 7.4 SOFA score rating, 6 total saves and 1 coming from inside the box, as well as 22 accurate passes. In the first half we saw a bit of a masterclass, making some fantastic saves and closing the angles down. The whole idea of signing a number 2 goalkeeper over this experience, £5 million for a player that's earning around £70,000 a week. Kepa might not be the quality of David Raya, but in terms of being backups and the best in the Premier League, he has to be up there in that category. Then you had the performance of Christian Nogard on his first ever start at the Emirates Stadium, a 7.7 SOFA score rating, 84% of passes completed, as well as 2 interceptions, 1 clearance and 2 recovery, 5 of 5 ground balls won. It was far from an amazing performance, but for a player who of course started the year with an injury, arriving at Arsenal a completely different team to Brentford, it was not a surprise to your boy that the more the game went on, the more that we saw the growth of Christian Nogard. Yet again another player that's not going to be starting quality over Martin Zubimendi, but when you focus on reliability and players to step up in moments, Nogard's experience in the Premier League captaining Brentford is definitely going to play a part this season. Moving on to the second thing, and that's Hale End excellence. On a day where Mikel Arteta was not scared to start the youngsters, yes, you had Lewis Skelly and Nwaneri, but you also had a first ever Arsenal appearance for centre forward Hale End, 17 years of age after a fantastic 2024-25, with 13 goals and assists in just 12 starts. Yet another chapter in the beautiful story of Hale End. In fact, here you have a fantastic photo of a young Nwaneri, Lewis Skelly, and right in the middle, Hale End. Players that were all directly involved in an Arsenal goal today, as Hale End dropped a 6.1 SOFA score rating, with 1 shot on target and 1 big chance missed, as well as 7 of 9 passes. When you then focus on a style of performance, I didn't quite see a striker that was a fox in a box, but more a striker comfortable in the broader phase, dropping deeper, with a very good level of technical ability. At 17 years of age with so much room for physical development, for Mikel Arteta to trust you and give you a start at the Emirates Stadium, as Arsenal trying to reach a quarter-final, that tells me straight away that something was happening in training. Mikel Arteta has clearly seen something, and this is a player that Arsenal fans need to keep an eye out for. As Mikel Arteta said after the game, since pre-season when he was with us, I was very impressed with him. First of all, his mentality, how much he wants it. That's the first ingredient. He is desperate to achieve his dream. I think he's been very consistent, training with us and constantly giving us an option to pick him. I believe today was the right day for him. For the context, for the way he was playing as well, he certainly proved that he's got a chance. But on a day where the focus was elsewhere, we have to talk about our brand new entertainer in Max Dowman. On a day where he became the youngest ever player to start for Arsenal, just 15 years and 302 days old. History was being made for a player that was just 423 days old when Arsenal lost the Carabao Cup final to Birmingham back in 2011. With so much expectation going into the game, the moment that Arsenal fans realised that Dowman was starting, the moment you could sense the excitement for a player that did not disappoint, dropping a 7.1 SofaScore score rating, with 34 touches and 5 of 8 dribbles completed, as well as 1 chance created, constantly causing chaos in that final third, taking on high-level senior pros like they were still academy players, completing 5 dribbles in just 71 minutes of play. At the time of his start, no other player on the pitch had completed more than 2 dribbles. 15 years of age and you're playing at this level, with the most dribbles completed, the most fouls won, and the most duels won as well. The way that he was breezing past his fullback time and time again, no fear in his play and a constant level of belief. Bear in mind he was up against a £20 million fullback that Brighton had signed only in the summer, yet for Max Dowman it was a breeze. A player that has arrived at Arsenal with the idea of being a pure entertainer. Whenever he receives the ball, even at 15 years of age, you can sense a level of anticipation. Arsenal fans and football fans across the world are starting to realise the quality is there for something very, very special. From the flick in the second half to Nwaneri, to even nearly winning a penalty, the feeling was definitely surreal. From watching Dowman thrive on the right hand side, as well as a first ever start for Hale End. Then of course you have Miles Lewis-Skelly and Nwaneri. Then of course Uncle Bukayo Saka coming off the bench and scoring the goal to win the game. With all the excitement growing at Arsenal at the moment, the fact that we of course are top of the Premier League, the idea of finally getting over the line and getting those major honours, the most beautiful fact behind that is you still have Mikel Arteta using players of Hale End, players that are Arsenal through and through that have come through our ranks and are playing a major part in helping Arsenal create a winning environment. As Mikel Arteta says, young players at Arsenal believe that they're going to get a pathway. If they earn it, then it doesn't matter how you're called, you're going to get a chance, and they know that. They believe in that and they really want it, which is the most important thing. Moving on to the third thing, Arsenal's defensive beast. On a day where you had no Gabriel Magalhaes or William Saliba, Arsenal still had high quality defenders, which of course is a beautiful sight when you think about it. When Mikel Arteta arrived in 2019, David Luiz, Rob Holding, Socrates and Mustafi, that was the quality of our starting centre-backs. But in 2025 things are different. Enter the scene Christian Mosquera and Piero Hincapie, making their first ever starts together as Arsenal's brand new centre-back partnership, as Mosquera delivered once again with a 7.1 SofaScore rating, 1 interception, 1 clearance, 1 block shot and 3 of 5 ground balls won. Yes, 1 error led to a shot, but 83% of passes completed. Playing in the role of William Saliba as Arsenal's central centre-back, in charge of the build-up phase and looking so commanding. Every single time I see this boy play, I still cannot believe the price tag of £13 million. It looks like a bargain, it looks like a robbery, because you see a defender so composed at just 21 years of age. Fantastic in the recovery and defending as well, with all the reports about William Saliba, after an injury against Crystal Palace, set to have more times on the sideline. But there's not a single Arsenal fan worry, and that is because of Christian Mosquera, a centre-back that has earned the trust of many Arsenal fans. The more that you watch him play, the more that you start to realise there is a specific reason behind that. Mosquera is a centre-back ahead of his years, and as Joby McAnuff says on Arsenal squad depth, I don't see a weakness. I was there the other day versus Crystal Palace. Mateta gives Saliba a tough 45 minutes, but Mosquera then comes on and slips in. They seem to have a solution for every problem. Starting and thriving alongside Piero and Hincapie, as Mikel Arteta says, they were very good. I think those two are going to complement each other really, really well. I'm very happy with what I've seen. They've never played together. I think they've trained 2 or 3 times together, and they will keep improving. And that's where appreciation must be given to Piero Hincapie making his first ever start at the Emirates Stadium, as he dropped a fantastic 8.2 SofaScore rating, the highest of any Arsenal player on the day, 4 of 3 ground balls, 1 and 3 of 3 in the air, as well as they were playing 94% of passes completed. The signs were definitely promising. After playing multiple cameos as a left back, to then play the role of Gabriel Magalhaes and still thrive, not only did we see a level of aggression, but we also saw a play that's very fast, with the speed to recover that helps Arsenal massively. The whole idea of him arriving at Arsenal was of course to replace a certain Jakub Kiwior. Reliable he may have been, but watching Hincapie play in his last few games, you see a player that has a slightly higher level of aggression, not to be physically bullied, and definitely not imposed. As Mikel Arteta says, Hincapie is a warrior. He's going to bring such intensity, physicality and emotion to the team as well. He's quality on the ball, and he's a player who's super keen. He can play inside, he can play in the wide positions. He's done it in different ways, and now we need to get him up to speed. Because the moment that he's physically at his best, he is going to raise the level. A signing that of course Arsenal have made, with a loan with the obligation to buy. The early signs are very promising, and you start to wonder where is this Arsenal future going to be When you've got the quality of Gabriel Magalhaes, are we going to see hincapie compete with Ricardo Calafiori, further allow Miles Lewis-Skelly to play in central midfield? When you've got the quality of Calafiori, hincapie and Miles Lewis-Skelly, even after losing Zinchenko and Kieran Tierney, the left back area is very stacked. And after years of the right hand side being our main focus, to now have the quality of the left backs, Eze, Martinelli and Trossard, the left hand side is about to thrive at a different level. Moving on to the fourth thing, and as Nwaneri comes through, on a day where he started once again as Arsenal's number 10, playing in the role of Martin Odegaard, he was able to score his first goal of the season and his 10th in total for Arsenal, in a game that he dropped a 7.4 SofaScore rating, 1 goal scored and 1 chance created, 70% of passes completed, and 1 out of 3 dribbles. As shown by the player's heat map, there was definitely a lot of variation in his play, from being in that final third alongside Max Down, to also dropping deeper in the build-up phase. Having now scored in back-to-back games against Brighton, the goal itself was a thing of beauty, assisted by his boy Miles Lewis-Skelly, but also a fantastic backheel from Hale Merino. That is Mikel Arteta ball at his very best. For all the talk about set pieces, I wonder if people are going to talk about that goal. But in terms of Ethan himself and his performance, there were a lot of departments where I think he can improve, where the weight of passes or keeping the ball, the idea of Ethan still at 18 years of age, there is a level of maturity, the idea of keeping the ball and keeping things ticking, trying to learn the role of Martin Odegaard, a player that at times struggled in that first half, but the more that he played, the more that he grew into the game, you could see a level of real maturity, with a fantastic finish for that first goal. The prime example was ball striking. Ethan is a player that has a lot of areas to improve, but when you're only 18 years of age, isn't that just to be expected? As Mikel Arteta says on when there is positional changes this season, at the end, the context of Bakayo's injuries and not having a replacement as well opened the opportunity for him to break in and have a lot of minutes at his age. Now that he's more settled, he's more stable, more mature, and we'll see him playing a lot more inside in both positions. That's where his biggest threat is. Starting in the midfield alongside Hale Merino, in a game that he dropped a 6.5 SofaScore rating, 1 chance created and 23 accurate passes, 2 shots on goal and 1 being on target. It wasn't the best of performances, but when it comes to Merino, he is a bit of a confusing player, sometimes struggling in the most simple tasks in the build-up phase, yet able to produce moments of magic in that final third. We cannot underestimate the quality of that back heel. The more that I start to wonder who was his coaches growing up, because what I see here is a profile of a striker, great at holding the ball up and one-touch link-up play, as well as being a very instinctive finisher, whereas previous games starting in the Arsenal midfield have been in the role of Martin Odegaard. Merino is definitely not a connector, but playing on the left-hand side breaking into that final third, when you think about the signing of Kai Havertz back in summer 2023, then the arrival of Merino in 2024, Mikel Arteta has always liked the idea of having a left-sided box-rushing midfielder. If you're going to use Merino in that way, it is only inevitable that he will score you important goals. And as he says after the game, proud and honoured to have the chance to represent this club and group of players as a captain tonight was unbelievable. Thank you for everyone's messages and support. Not a better way to do it than win and the ticket to the next round. Come on, you Gunners. Moving on to the fifth thing, and that is Arsenal's insane record. Insane is definitely the word. In the month of October, Arsenal of course playing 6 games and keeping 6 clean sheets. Not a single goal conceded. That is simply crazy. In fact, Arsenal have now become the first ever English top flight team in history to play 6 matches in a month and win them all without conceding a single goal. We've talked about defensive excellence, but that is defensive insanity, having not conceded a single goal outside the Premier League, with all the talk of us potentially breaking Chelsea's 15-goal record. As things stand in the Premier League, Arsenal are projected to only concede 12 goals. Things can definitely change when you look at our quality and our depth. In a game that Arsenal were able to bring on Yuri and Timber, dropping a 6.8 SofaScore rating, but the main focus of course being that superb run, bursting through the Brighton players into that final third, playing a lovely pass for Hamilton News, who could have easily scored, but it led to a goal for Bukayo Saka. Yet another reminder to Benjamin White. Yes, your performance may have been decent, but as things stand, I am still Arsenal's #1 right back. And then you had the quality of Bukayo Saka, coming on in the 70th minute and scoring in the 76th, in a game that he dropped a 7.2 SofaScore rating. The idea that Arsenal were already 1-0 up, and then you have the ability to bring on Timber and Bukayo Saka. Just look at the quality in the Arsenal bench. Raya, Gabriel, Timber, Calafiori, Rice, Bimendi, Saka, Trossard and Victor Gyökeres. When it comes to quality of benches, could that be the strongest in Arsenal's history? And the reason why that's so important is because of the idea of competing on multiple fronts. The focus of course currently may be the Premier League, but when you think about the Champions League, the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup, the more that you look at the Arsenal squad and the more that you look at the quality, the different variations of profiles, the more that you will start to believe Mikel Arteta has every single thing he needs to get all the way to a Carabao Cup final, and more importantly get over the line. As next up for Arsenal of course is a game against Crystal Palace in a quarter-final at the Emirates Stadium, with Chelsea City and Newcastle also in the competition. Palace of course won't be easy as you saw on the weekend, especially after yet another 3-0 victory over a team that can't stop losing in Liverpool. My friends, talk to me down below in the comments. Carabao Cup quarter-final tickets secure, with all the focus on the Premier League, but the returns of Martin Odegaard, Noni Madueke, Kai Havertz, and of course Gabriel Jesus. Do you think that Arsenal have the ability to go and win the Carabao Cup? But that is the video there and there, so hopefully you guys have enjoyed. If you have, don't forget to smash a like and also subscribe to the channel if you are new. If you want to follow your boy on all over social medias, and the links are down below in the description. But that was the 5 things we learned from Arsenal to Brighton 0, revenge against a team that we couldn't beat last year, but this year it's a different story. We're breezing past, and October has been a fantastic month. Now we look to November, where things are going to get harder, and hopefully Arsenal keep on winning. My friends, I'll see you next time. Take care and ribbons.